Well, thank you everybody for joining the Crownsmen Show. I'll kick off with a little bit of what's going on in my life. I was almost a victim of an assault yesterday. Yep, and this is true. This is not a joke at all. I was at the office, and this guy walked by. I guess he wanted to see the dogs that were sitting in the window, and then when I didn't open, he decided that he was going to try to get in. So he started pulling on the doors.
Oh my God, Gowdy.
What did you do?
You put that one back, did you not?
Oh no!
Our studio's falling apart.
It's amazing how quickly
Devin can't.
y'all started blaming each other for the issue.
That was really good. That was
wow.
Good. Enjoying that.
Good solid team.
Yeah, teamwork.
I'm pointing. Rory's got his thumb up, so must be his fault.
We'll just keep it in.
The reality is Jerrod.
Story. We have the best, we have the best people.
We have the best
around.
neighbors.
Exactly. So, Jerrod, continue on with this. This is a great intro. I want to talk about.
I lifted up the thing, and I'm looking at him, and I didn't have a smile on his face that I guess on my face that matched what his expectations. So that he started, mirroring me and like that. I was like, okay, this is getting. And then he really started trying to get in. Then he left, and I was like, okay, well, that was fine. 1 minute later, he's back on the door trying to yard it open.
What time is this at?
I mean, it's late-ish, but not that crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I've done just enough boxing. I'm probably safe against a drug addict, But there's also a lot of implications if you open the door of a locked door and you go out there and start acting like a crazy person yourself.
Yeah.
So I ran to the police. That was my method.
That's a good way to do
it. Cried to them for 10 minutes.
Good.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So I am not going to prison and I'm not a victim. But yeah, he really wanted to. Again, Dave Chappelle did that. He really wanted to get in that door.
Yeah, it was saw up in
crazy though,
because we're talking crime and punishment. I just saw come out in Williams Lake. They're having such a bad epidemic with is that the right word? I don't know, probably not. With the crime, they're like, we're not considering you yet. I'm like, really?
We're not considering what?
A curfew. Yet. I'm like, damn, what is going on in Williams Puddle?
Well, that's what the government says before they implement something. It's usually about 2 weeks.
This is municipality, so it's almost like they're giving a warning out. I guess it's just like downtown,
that's how they do it.
Turned into a disaster.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow.
Well, what's scary about it is me is like that guy. Like when it comes to actual safety, I was safe, but if that's someone else, and for whatever reason he tricks them into opening the door, I mean you got a serious problem. It's actually really scary, and which is why I said to the police, I said, I'm fine. You don't need to come here, but there's other people walking around. Like someone else is next. So, it's real scary stuff. Anyway, I'm okay. Thank you everybody for your support and your love. It really got me through it. Yeah. I will be bringing this up for the next 10 episodes as I sort of get over my experience.
You've got to talk it out.
I do.
And no better people to talk it out to than Lenny and Roy.
Yeah.
Therapy.
Yeah.
With the Crownsmen Show.
Yeah. Think of me as your therapy co-host.
I've been to therapy. The issue with therapy for me though is I'm sort of a curious person.
So you start acting?
So I started getting distracted by I'm like, oh, what's the technique he's actually using? I'm like, oh no, this is not what we're here for.
Speaking of therapy.
There we go.
There we go.
The right kind of therapy.
Somebody might recognize this logo, hey? Yes. So, Roy, if I just drink this out of the can, what's the best approach?
What? You can go down the alley with that guy that was trying to break into Jerrod's place the other night if you drink that out of the can.
I think he probably would help. It would help him to be in Guinness. I think it was something else going on.
So, Roy, are you saying that it's illegal to drink it out of the can?
No, it's not illegal. It's immoral.
Is it? So how are you? You said there was 2 options to pour it in an email.
Fine, Roy.
Yeah.
I'm going to pour a Guinness into my Petro-Canada lubricant.
Oh my goodness.
He said not to pour it in. That you had to have a glass. Didn't you read his emails?
I know.
Yeah, I did read his emails, but I want to bring up our amazing sponsor, and I'm going to drink a Guinness.
You're just too lazy to find a glass.
Wow.
You know what? I could have walked upstairs earlier, but I already had to walk to the fridge.
I feel bad for people that randomly come across this show and have no idea what the point is.
We got a comment the other day, and somebody's like, I look forward to seeing what's coming next.
Yeah, well, this is a heavy industry show, everybody. So it starts with beer and it ends with beer, and then like 2 things happen in the middle about heavy industry.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Orica Digital Solutions. Blast IQ Underground provides quality control and improved underground drill and blast productivity for superior blast outcomes. Effectively manage the underground blasting process from planning to post-blast analysis with user-friendly reporting, analytics, and information management. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsmen.com to be part of Crownsmen's Heavy Industry Tour.
Pumping systems. They're the heartbeat of manufacturing, but they can be real headaches, can't they? Vibration, pulsation, back pressure, it's a wonder anything gets done efficiently or safely. That's where Blaco comes in. Their pulsation dampeners, back pressure valves, and other solutions are designed to tame the chaos, improve efficiency, and add reliability and safety to your pumping system. Imagine less downtime, lower maintenance costs, and a whole lot less stress. That's the Blaco difference. Blaco Industries, smooth flow, smooth operation, made in the USA. Visit Blaco.com to learn more. Attention builders, we've got everything you need to know about the grit and grind of the construction world in one show. The Construction Show is where you can share your expert techniques and strategies to help keep the crew strong and construction sites secure. From foundational tips, industry trends, safety strategies to advanced equipment and machinery. Be part of the voice of construction. Book your episode and showcase your company to millions worldwide. Visit crownsmen.com.
Look at Roy go.
Okay, but Roy, you said there's another way to pour it.
So just watch. Here's the nice part.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
It's beautiful.
This is
So
great podcasting.
You've got the cascade, and now it just slowly turns to black.
It's amazing. That's what mine's doing, everybody.
Look at that pour.
But there's another way to pour it, Roy.
There's a hard pour.
What's that called? Well, I want to do that.
Okay, the hard pour, you just tip it upside down.
That's what I just did.
Oh, you did? Sorry, I was looking at Roy and not at that screen. Oh, see, I've got Roy pinned. Damn it.
So, well, you've got your priorities straight anyway.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
love the hard pour.
Rory just
Well,
did it?
Kind of.
Roy, kind of, yeah.
See, that's the point, Rory, is you can't,
I
you know, the cascade, the whole bit, it's all part of the experience. You just saw and now it's a beautiful tan head and nice stout. You can't see any of that in your Petro K and your sponsors.
So am I supposed to?
mug.
Am I supposed to put? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, that's it, Jerrod.
Oh, no.
No.
No. Okay. What are you actually supposed to do? I missed what Rory because Rory. I had it pinned wrong.
If
So I
you
didn't
want
see
to
it.
pour hard, you just tip it right upside down.
Yeah. Boom.
Oh.
Let it pour. So like this.
Straight
Oh.
down. Do it, Jerrod, so we can see it, because I just did it,
It,
and I've
will,
never
will
done
it make?
before.
Is this going to make a mess?
No.
Oh no, it may not.
If Rory didn't make a mess, I'm sure you're fine.
I'm worse than.
It's amazing. It's going to cascade.
Again, if people are listening to this show, they've left.
Is there enough room in your mug for a 500
We're
ml
gonna-
can?
We're gonna find out. It should be perfect.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you have little faith.
Sweet.
But I
So now
have
hold
to
it up
say,
the camera, Jared. Hold it up to the camera. No, hold it up to the camera.
Wow.
Watch the
yeah,
bottle.
so we can watch it.
That's what I just did with
Okay,
mine.
we're not
See?
watching 2 Guinnesses. We're not doing that.
You get the same result.
It's the same result, everyone. Come on.
We're
folks.
certainly not watching 3 with a Petro can thermos. For goodness sakes.
Petro-Canada lubricants thermos, Roy, is very important because Petro-Canada no longer has Petro-Canada lubricants.
And have you reviewed Guinness already on Craig Keel Men Drinking Beer?
Yeah.
Yo.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to the review of it at the end of the show, but it's going to be amazing because Guinness, if you don't like Guinness, there's something wrong with you.
I have some amazing.
Well, no, let me.
Oh, go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I was just going to say a couple things about Guinness, and people have certain misconceptions. We talked before about dark beer. People often think of dark beer as very strong. and Guinness isn't strong. Like it's about 4.2%. You know, it's 4% is a light beer. 4.2%. It's very creamy. It is full flavored. It's not very bitter. Anyway, we'll talk about it at the end. But you know, some people that haven't tried it have a preconceived notion about it.
Great Britain consumes the most Guinness. They do 2.2 million pints per day in 2022. So that's pretty interesting. They love their Guinness there.
For king and country.
My fisherman friend that that's what he used to be, a fisherman. Then he worked on, then he became a cider. And when I was in that business, he said basically and he's a Polish guy, so they put it away pretty good. But he said that the Russians, they joined a ship with the Russians once and started drinking with them. And the Polish guys, he said they all left because it was just too crazy. Like they just kept going and going and going. So he'd never seen anybody drink like that. And he said the craziest pubs, again, this is like an ex-fisherman. These are some wild pubs he was going to back in the day.
I can just imagine
by any standard.
pulling up on shore.
Yeah.
That would have been unreal.
Yeah, the crew that was coming in. He said no, there's nothing wilder than the British pubs. He said nothing even, like not even close. He said the things you would see back in the day in those pubs. He said it was just so. That's kind of heavy industry, transportation and shipping.
My first experience with the Russians was at a resort in Egypt, and so I was hanging out with a crew of them, and it was unbelievable.
They do though. Once you realize the food thing, then it makes it, because Canadians, for whatever reason, and Americans do it a lot too, actually, is we'll eat our meal and then people will drink, or we're going to an event and the beer will come out, the food will come out an hour before, and then later the beer comes out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do it that way. They're eating and drinking the whole time. So that's why they
these Russians had already eaten apparently, because they were just bringing out trays and trays and trays, and you're just trying to keep up, and you're not. I was not keeping up, but I did my best.
They were probably sneaking food and you didn't realize. They probably played you, right?
Probably not. I was 17, so whatever, Jerrod.
I was going to wait a second. No, isn't that illegal? Egypt? What? Okay.
Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graymond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com. Join us in the depths of the mining world, where global leaders and industry giants converge to shape the future of mining. From groundbreaking technologies, advanced machinery, revolutionary safety measures, to sustainable initiatives. This is the voice of mining. This is Mining Now. Showcase your company to millions worldwide. Book your episode now. Visit crownsmen.com.
What do we try, Rory? What do you got going on today? What's your focus?
My topic for
I
today
said Rory,
was,
but Rory is good too. Let's go with Rory. Yeah, because Rory started last week. Go, Mr. Slack.
My topic for today was organizational structure, which sounds very textbook, but it's something that I went through, and certainly for entrepreneurs, as your company grows, you begin to look at, you start out with a few people and it's like family and everyone's got a different skill. But as things grow, you start to look at traditional organizational structures and you start to think about filling in the boxes, so to speak. And I've learned that's not the right way to do it. And we talk about books. This one, but Ron Capel is a consultant in Toronto. He just retired, actually, but very interesting book on organization design. And more and more people are talking about fitting the structure to your people rather than fitting the people to your structure. So if you've got a traditional structure with positions, but you've got some people with real strengths in certain areas, maybe it's time to rethink the organization chart.
Is this sort of going into we've brought Jack Welch comes up a lot, but is it kind of going into like how he talked about like people in like certain roles go like having them, you might have to move them into like a different position, like if they're better suited,
yeah.
like kind of more along those lines, Roy? Is that kind of what Ronald gets into in his book?
A little bit. I'm reminded of Marcus Buckingham is another author who talked about working to your strengths. And far too often what we do is we look at gaps and then we try and train ourselves in those gaps. And he takes the opposite approach. He says, if your strength is networking with people in marketing,
Yeah.
let's take that to the next level and forget about finance and accounting. I mean, other
Double
people
down on.
have an there's some of that involved too.
So doubling down on the strengths of them instead of trying to, like, basically you're really strong at these 3 areas, make those even better to benefit the company. Find somebody else in accounting and finance that's going to be strong in that avenue.
You know where I saw it? An example, Rory, is when we hired Thea. She came in and her presentation skills. I mean, so I used to do a lot of the presentation stuff, and it was horrific. Maybe we can bring up some of our old media packages.
You sent me one the other day, Jerrod. It was outstanding.
I don't have to see it to believe it.
Oh yeah, well, you still want it. You still want to see it. What we show
Call me
you
of it.
Yeah,
Call
it
me
may
of it.
shock you. But then she came in and it just so much quicker and just so much better. Like almost laughable. You're like, how are these even 2 humans doing the same job? Because it's so much different. But until you see that comparison, let's say someone handling your finances who actually specialize in it, you almost you don't know what you don't know. You don't realize how much impact it's going to have.
I think a lot of people find that, I remember when we started and I didn't have anyone in HR. We had a big contract, so I was actually writing up the employment contracts for people and, cleaning that up at the end versus having someone that knew what they were doing. It's good experience though. It really is. You get a feel for it and you get an appreciation, like you said, Jerrod, when someone is good at it, you really appreciate it because you've tried it, you've dabbled in it a bit, and you know it's not easy. And it could be any facet of your business.
Actually, this brings me to another one. Now, I forget who was that company? They had the robot. They had a lot of robotics in their facility in Australia.
Geograph.
Geograph, yeah. Geograph was their found. Oh no, I don't think he was a founder. He was the son of the founder, but now they're on the 3rd generation. So really, really good crew that's going multi-generation. So he's now retired, but what his method was, so the son of the founder, what his method was, is whenever they expanded their business, he would leave the operations of the one business and move over to the new segment. And he would just manage that so that he would learn that business.
Yeah.
And once he got to a place where he was happy, he would then leave it and then hand it off to someone else. And I thought it was a very interesting, I mean, whether or not, I don't know if I would do it that way, but I thought it was a pretty interesting method that he just kept building up the segments of their business. And he basically would learn it, develop it, but that meant that the other segments, he had built them up enough that he could walk away from them for, 6 months to a year and a half. Very interesting.
I was going to say the other thing could be he's found his area of expertise. Right? In starting and building.
True.
That's what some people, that's what their passion is. They get excited about it and they do a great job at it. Whereas running a business that's in a mature state, that's just boring. So he kind of found what he was excellent at and he put himself in that position.
Yeah. But it also allows him, right, to appreciate, like if you start a new segment of something, but you're trying to hands off with it and someone's giving you feedback, it is hard, even the best manager, it is difficult to sort of, and you can't, if you're Ford, there's going to be some, Caterpillar, you got to have it segmented. The CEO can't be going, dealing with the new tractor line that's coming out. But if it's not at that scale, you can sort of, you can cut through a lot of the fat by actually appreciating what's going on in the operations of that business.
Yeah.
In the like the editing and for Crownsmen, I remember when Gowdy was doing like the editing and launching and advertising, and then as our editing team expanded, Gowdy still oversees it as head of production. But now the editing team, they actually like check each other's work. Like we have episodes that come out, like obviously even if it's, especially if it's one that I've been on, and then I see the edited version of it, I'm like, that's outstanding. Like in a way, I can't even like the level that it's getting to now is so high that, I mean, it makes sense why people keep coming back and doing more and more. But it's crazy to see it go from where Gowdy was running that, having to edit it, launch it. Now she's doing checks in the management, but the editing team, they're finding graphics to put into it. They basically become like this independent part of Crownsmen for that editing process.
But the
Like
editors,
Mick and David.
Who?
Mick and David.
I feel like it's a McDavid joke, but I'm not sure.
Oh no, it's not Mick. It's the Monkees and Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, was Jimi Hendrix in the Monkees?
There was a generational gap there on one of our shows.
I was so blank.
Well, what I was going to say actually is, Roy, one thing our editors have not been able to do, though, is take off the mustache that appears for about 3 episodes. This is sometimes I was scrolling through the playlist the other day. I'm like, oh yeah, Roy had a mustache for 3 episodes.
What the editors were not able to do, my wife was able to achieve in about 1 minute.
She must have left for a few weeks.
Okay. Yeah, there was a gap there.
That was more than a gap.
The ridiculous thing was, I actually thought it looked good. I thought it looked cool myself.
I loved it. I loved it.
You love combing it every morning,
Oh, the grooming,
wax in it.
every aspect of it, Rory. I just
Talk
Enjoyed it.
about a market though, hey? How like facial hair just came back in like a wave, and now you get hit with ads on all these like care products for men's beards and all that sort of thing. It's just hilarious.
I did a blog on that. Jerrod. It's and Men's Health had all of this advice on how to grow a beard. I always thought growing a beard was just not shaving. But no, there's all these products you're supposed to use. Luckily, Men's Health advertised all those products on their magazines, so
Good.
just coincidence, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
all these things that you have to do. The other thing they said is after a few weeks, you have to start trimming it, or people don't think you're growing a beard. They just think you're not shaving.
right.
So there's some fine points in that beard growing.
Sounds like a complete waste of my time. Does if I could,
Well, if you can't grow a beard, then
then
yeah.
it wouldn't. There you go. Oh,
Frank, you've
Oh.
been drinking
It's
with
because Jerrod
beer
can't
with
grow
the
a
beard.
beard.
I know that is why it is. Cranky old men drinking beer. Rory, you just said it. I just said it. We got it. Nice.
Oh yeah, we're up to 3 already
yeah.
this episode.
There's a beard for you.
There's a beard.
Jack Black.
Oh. Hey, I think we drank this one on the show too, didn't we? Juicy.
Yep.
Juicy.
Well, there's a beer.
Juicy.
Okay,
That's weird.
I respect that.
Oh, that was Roy's goal, the mustache.
Yeah. See, it looks good. I thought it looked good. I don't agree with everybody else.
that middle mustache.
Yeah. The whole world was wrong. Roy, you and I were right. That mustache looked good.
Next episode, Jerrod featuring his beard.
Literally couldn't happen.
It's those pills.
That's a private medical thing, Roy. You can't bring that up on the show. I'm a victim of assault.
It'll take some time, but I think it will come through for him.
Just to be clear,
I think if I just keep eating as much as I do, I think I don't even need the pills. I thought if I ate a lot and then did push-ups, I would kind of balance it out. It's just I'm just doing less and less push-ups all the time now because it's just getting more and more work. But I think I'm getting stronger.
we have exercise program that my kids did the Beachbody program.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you heard of that, but you know, at Cranky Men, we developed the beach ball program, which is a little bit different. You start to substitute fat for muscle, but we all know muscle weighs more than fat, so it just balances out in the long run.
That's
so.
right. I didn't even know. Maybe he sent that over to me because I'm kind of already halfway on that
It's
method.
trademarked. It's trademarked. So
Okay. Well, no, I'll just apply it in my own personal life.
okay, yeah. Don't be selling it.
Yeah.
No.
My main motivation though is I just don't want to buy new clothes because it's not really the health thing. It's expensive to go up a few sizes. Hey, what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about the negotiation. I wanted to mention a couple episodes that I thought were interesting. And it kind of ties into actually I don't want it. We can cut that out. It's boring. Getting to yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad we skipped the boring part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just get to yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's just get
Yawn.
So that book though is I wanted to pull another segment out.
That's not the beach. That's not the beach ball program. I'll tell you that.
No.
A lot of people don't realize I look very similar to those bodies, just from about here, from about in here. There's a few changes, and then it starts back up around my ankles. Everything.
Jerrod, you also mispronounce your ankles. You have cankles.
Now I got a visual of Jerrod in a Speedo. That's just more, to TMI.
I actually, I could never do the Speedo, but when I used to swim, I did have those, and it was not pretty. Okay, so getting to yes. What am I talking? Yeah, sorry, I'm
completely lost.
I completely no, because I was choosing between two topics, and I forgot. No, I switched this one out with the other one that I was going to do. You get to we had a big. I know I'm having a tough time. We had a major client. They're one of the biggest. They're actually one of the biggest companies in the world. I won't say it just because we're still in part of the talks, and this is sort of behind the scenes stuff. But I will say sort of how the conversation went. We did this big switch. So what happened is they booked at one time, and now all of a sudden what they're seeing is, we're spending 3 times more. So part of this getting to yes is going hard on what you're trying to accomplish, but easy on the person. And so the hard on the problem part was not just I'm really having a tough time here. No, because I'm missing part of my notes. That's what I realized is happening. I'm going to actually go grab them because I wanted to actually say it. So
maybe the book you're talking about is Getting to Maybe.
Getting to maybe. Yeah, I think
While
that's
you're
what's going
doing
to
that,
happen.
Jerrod, I just want
Not quite as popular.
Lenny's
Getting
got
to
some
the point.
interesting stats. So in less than 5 months. So Lenny's incredible stats this month while Jerrod pulls up his notes. Is over 3 million viewers on YouTube, and in 2025, obviously this year. So that is. Jared's rubbing off on me.
Wow,
Oh,
we're doing
boy.
good.
144,000 hours watched. So for reference, there's 876,000 hours if you live in 100 years. So just in this year alone, over 444,000 hours watched. So basically equivalent to 50 years worth of content. YouTube is insane with just the reach and how much is being consumed on a daily basis.
What I
So
take-
those are
Yeah,
Lenny's
what I take from that is if you're hiring someone, you should just budget their workload that they can only do about 6 hours of work. Because obviously with those kind of stats, 2 hours is being spent on YouTube every day.
Yeah.
There's got to be something going on.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
I'm ready to go. I was missing half my notes. When I copied and pasted it in, I just missed half. So I was so
There we
confused
go.
what was going
Get
on.
into Yes, featuring Jerrod.
Negotiate hard on your interest, not on the people. Or you could say go hard on the problem, soft on the people, or aggressive on your interests and complimentary to the person you're negotiating with. Again, it's one of those easy things to say, but if you're missing how to do it, you end up either not staking your interest properly, so you end up going along with it to just try to appease the person you're going with, or you end up going way too hard on what you're trying to, or you end up going way too hard on the person, and it's like, hey, we already did this. You like, we've already gone all this way in the negotiation, and now you're doing this. You end up insulting them, and then all these problems come up. I am really nailing this one.
Warning: Guinness makes you forget your notes.
Oh, it's the Guinness at 4.2%.
How about those Oilers, eh?
Oh, do we need to talk about those Oilers?
I haven't
Sorry,
even been following
Jerrod.
it. I haven't even been following it. I don't even know what's going on with them.
Oh, they're just pumping the Stars repeatedly.
Oh, are they?
Obliterating them. It's going to be a Florida Edmonton rematch.
That's good.
We hope.
Yeah.
But Jerrod, on your point there, and
Thank you, Roy, for helping.
yeah, no, I remember I was a member of the Prevention Council in Ontario, which advises the government on workplace safety, and it was made up of industry, labor, special interest groups, government. It wasn't just tripartite. There was about 5 different groups represented, and I was warned about this one guy who was labor and very very labor oriented,
That's
very
union, right?
anti-industry, so to speak,
Like a union, kind of like a union
Yeah.
boss, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
and did a little bit of research and found out that he grew up in Kingston, which was my hometown. So before even our first meeting, I approached him and I said, I heard you're from Kingston, and we started to chat. And that little bit of ice breaking made the next 3 years, like, we worked together and we had a common goal of safety in the workplace. But it was something that I was warned, this is going to be adversarial. This guy is, and just finding some common ground, getting a little bit personal, and doing it at the start made all the difference, and we had a great relationship and a respectful relationship over the next 3 years.
It can make all the difference. And another thing that I'm talking about is, so in the example that I've been stumbling around and trying to get to is basically this what the client is seeing is this huge uptick in price. So one method that I have gone to before is you try to sort of soften that. You try to, like, almost minimize what they're having to spend. They're spending 3 times more, so you almost try to make them feel better about it. But in this method that they're talking, going hard on the problem, my interest is in getting him to invest 3 times the money. So what I'm doing now is showing appreciation, even that he's talking and having the conversation. And I'm also being complimentary, saying, okay, you've got these things you're trying to accomplish, and I'm building around that. So I'm not trying to pull him in directions that he doesn't want to go. But when it comes to the actual value that we're offering, I actually switched my method to from trying to soften the blow to actually doubling and tripling down on why it was this way. So I went very hard on that I am right in what I'm offering.
I think you have to do that. We talked before about value added, and if what's the return on investment? What am I getting for this?
Right.
It's changing. So what's involved?
Right. If it comes in, if you say some version of if the price is going up and you go, yeah, no, I know that's hard to deal with, and you've got a budget. That is not what that's just basically saying, well, you're right. But he's not right. And so you should say, no, believe me, I want you to dig into this. I want you to figure it out. And that's why we're having these meetings. I hope you can do a couple of meetings so we can really get the right option. This is why we have to do that.
And are you trying to show the client basically what there's obviously increased viewership, there's more data being shared. Are you basically trying to get them to, like, dig into it so they have a full understanding of that? Because then they realize, oh, wait a second, this isn't the same thing as 2 years ago.
Exactly. But I think, and the clarification there is and I know this sounds a bit counterintuitive, but is to not show empathy that it's bigger. In some
Doesn't
things you
matter.
go empathy, but in this case, and I know that's sort of like that's kind of not what people say, but there's actually a psychological thing that happens that if you are going and encouraging the person to sort of like that they're doing a good job by going at this with you, but you're saying this is the right move and you're not backing down at that at all, humans automatically try to balance things out. So those contrasts, they are going to try to cause a balance there. If you're saying, oh, I know this is really hard to deal with this price and you're doing a good job, well, the balance starts to lean towards not doing it.
Instead of looking at it and saying, these, yes, we know that this costs more. You know, there's no smoke screen there. It's we know it costs more, but what it's doing is it's creating opportunities that weren't there before.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't feel sorry that you have to pay more.
Yeah.
I'm excited that there's opportunities for your business to really get return on this investment.
I flat out told some of my best clients when we updated everything, I was like, we bootstrapped for the last 5-6 years of doing the shows. Now we're coming out to show what can actually be done with this, because it's just different. We can get you 30,000, 45,000 views, but we're going to show you what you can actually do with it. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's probably easier for certain companies that are larger and they've seen that growth happen as well. But it was just being honest about that and telling them, like, we're moving from a bootstrap model to basically a real growth model. They're like, yeah, that seems good to us. And
I said a very similar thing. And then to build on that is we're going after a different market as well. There was companies that are charging, 50, 60, even more to bring out, their drones and production and doing all these promo videos. Well, we're already there doing an interview. So we want to now go after that market because we're already on site filming an interview. Yeah. We're already there. We already have the cameras. Once we bring the drone, we have everything we need to make this same video. But because we've already been paid to come there, all that cost associated is now removed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you, when you're explaining the additional costs, do you bring Lenny into the picture?
I always have Lenny in the background. So even if I have like a fake screen behind me, Lenny will show up. And it's a bad problem. Like, so I have to make sure Lenny sometimes is off to the side for very serious conversations. Yes.
He plays peekaboo.
Exactly. Yeah, he does. All of a sudden it's like Lenny's there, and I forgot he was even there.
We've all been there.
He's only half there in my picture, but I'm sure there's some editing involved.
I actually thought that's the joke you were making. I realized, oh no, it's just me.
He's enjoying some Guinness right now.
Your mind.
You can't get rid of the mustache, but you could probably get Lenny out if you had to.
Oh boy.
Sorry, Jerrod. I got off on a tangent there. I tend to digress at times. It's my age, I think.
The age.
Yeah, I'm scared of what I'm going to be like when I'm, Roy's.
I'm scared of you too.
I won't even know where I am.
Jared.
Yeah. I'm going to be angry and not going to know where I am. That's it. I'm going to be the guy breaking in the door.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the same office.
Your freaking dog.
Yeah. We're going to have moved on from this office. I'm going to end up on the street at the same office trying to get to the same door. Yeah.
Do you think we're far from that?
4 or 5 years. Rory Bamford, what do you got? What are you thinking about today? What's keeping you up at night?
Oh, what's keeping me up at night? Do we really want to get into that?
Lenny.
Lenny and the Jets.
I wanted to. Yeah,
oh, don't do that. Don't. Devin's having a good day.
Mm-hmm. He's not anymore. Well, I was looking at the with the theme of Guinness, obviously, and St. Paddy's Day, which is coming up in a few months or next year. I was looking at like the top
very close.
exports for 2024, and of course, like exports to Canada from Ireland is 4.4 billion USD, and then of course to the US market, it's 78.6 billion. And I didn't realize their top exports: pharmaceutical products, organic chemicals, and then a whole bunch of like medical stuff. But so that was just some interesting facts I figured. I did notice. I noted that they said Ireland has now for their export market apparently has surpassed Canada's export market, which I found very odd. But anyway, I'd have to look into that more.
You find that odd? I find that completely believable.
What's the population of Ireland?
Yeah, good question.
I mean, I always, whenever I hear about exports and different things, I like to compare
5.3 million
versus Canada at around 40.
41. So I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's not get into that. What I did want to chat about a little bit is I found an interesting chart, and it was talking about like why Ireland is considered pro-business, and they've got things like their low corporate tax rate of 12.5%. Then you've got like your net operating losses can be carried back 1 year, carried forward indefinitely. They've got a tax treaty with 74 countries. And interesting thing, Ireland's personal tax rate on dividend income of 51% is among the highest OECD countries. And then the VAT rate of 23%. I don't actually know what VAT rate refers to.
Value added tax?
What would that be represented in? What is that?
All goods and services that do not fall into the reduced category rates or so it's like a duty.
Yeah.
They include all goods and services that do not fall. So they include alcohol, audiovisual equipment, car parts, accessories. You start digging into it, and there's so much regulation on cars, like parts.
Well, it's like you
crazy.
wonder. It's so funny because you wonder sometimes why some of these countries have such a tough time sort of getting like just into the market, and then you find out. I was talking with a lady from Ghana. She said, so if beer is coming in, it's hit with like 100% tax.
Yeah.
At the port. So it's just, there's just no point. Nobody's going to buy it.
Yeah.
So then, of course, now you're not having someone that's redistributing it and all that. So it's just that whole potential economy is just wiped out. It just doesn't exist in their country. Other than a few rich people go, oh, well, I want to drink a Budweiser and I want to, drive a Mustang. But it's not accessible to anybody else. So then you don't have a vendor, and then you don't have a shipper who's handling it. So again, it just wipes out that whole portion, and that economy is just not accessible to people.
Going back to Egypt, the rich fellow is driving around doing literally a loop in like this one like more like upscale area. Mustang, Hummer, just doing laps.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's like the only Hummer and Mustang I saw. Those guys were making a point and be like, look what I got.
Yeah, look what I'm willing to pay twice as much for.
And all those rich people wanting to drink Budweiser.
Yeah.
Always.
Maybe Kid Rock.
I wanted to ask you guys a question, though, because like in looking at the strengths and weaknesses, Canada has, if you set up a company in BC and you make under 500,000 Canadian, you're going to get taxed. Combined rate, Jerrod and I just looked it up, it's about 13%. Is what you're going to pay. So you could literally pay that tax and start and invest. If you made 499,000.
So is that provincial or is that provincial federal?
Combined provincial federal is about 13 point something percent. I can't remember the exact stat, but
that's pretty good.
One thing, it is a really good rate,
which is lower than the U.S. It is funny that it's funny because the U.S. talks about it a lot. About how they're low taxes, and now we are hit in other areas, but when it comes to actually business, it's actually very competitive.
What I wanted to ask you guys is, because obviously every company that you have to file corporate income tax, you have to file those returns, so there's a cost of paying the accountant to do that. But let's say I'm a company and I'm going to be making $2.5 million in profit in a year, but I'm going to structure out 5 companies because I'm going to make sure each one is kind of in that 500,000 threshold, right? So I don't go over. Roy, I'm curious, like in your years of experience, have you seen where people have had these structures, like maybe they have like a holdings company, but then they've got all these subsidiaries so that they're basically they're applying that low rate to each of those separate businesses.
Well, we had a friend in Alberta, Rory, that had like 40 companies.
I think he said 80.
I think he said, I couldn't remember, so I
think it was around
down.
80 companies he had. He had ones for every specific thing because, I mean, obviously for tax purposes, keeping it in the corporate structure is much more lucrative, and the government knows this as well, but they want those jobs to stay in Canada. So those low tax, those people use Canada as an offshore tax haven. That's the other funny thing. When people are talking about Canada, like in the U.S., there's a whole bunch of people that have used Canada as like a very solid offshore place, especially with our banking being one of the strongest like banking countries in the world.
Well,
I'm just curious, so
yeah, but you know that it's not the way you think when you start a business. You know, you're thinking about the market and where the potential work is and where the people that you want to hire are, and you may get to a point where you say, what's a structure where I can reduce my tax burden?
Mm-hmm.
But and maybe there's some people that start out a business that way. I mean, we didn't. You know, we looked at.
We didn't.
You know, and so the short answer is I don't know. I mean, we've been when we were bought by a South African company, they looked at it wasn't so much you know, you look at the after-tax profit, you look at the dividend allowances required from countries, and you look at certain things, but when all is said and done, it's, you know, what's the after-tax profit? And you can be in a jurisdiction with low tax, but if you're not making much money, it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think many companies when they start up, but obviously if they get into a position where they're making millions of net income, I guess that's when you would be looking at the structure and going, okay, well, let's have these different basically these different companies, because then each one is taxed at
It
the
does.
reduced rate.
It does depend on the business, right? Like when I was in the exterior business, it would have been very confusing to go, okay, well now we're going to invoice for our railings, our siding. People were buying a home exterior package, right? But if you're in like that fellow out of Alberta, he was, I mean, just going to be careful so I don't like give, but he had different supply companies provide and then different service companies with separate even client bases, even if he was the client to his own company. So it kind of makes sense from what little I know of his structure that he would be able to set it up that way without causing too much confusion.
But the essential thing is too, like if I'm a business and I make $1 million, but I'm going to make $1 million, I would be, when I'm looking at the different limits, like in BC as an example, it goes from 2% to 12%. It would kind of make the most sense to set up a second company and bill that company for $500,000 and then keep that $500,000 in that second company. So I go, I'm keeping that rate lower.
But, you know, when we do something like that, it's not tax considerations. It's usually ring fencing. So if we've got a company that has a lot of liability that could bring down, you know, its parent company or other companies, and then you look at bonding facilities and other things.
Did you say bonding facilities?
What's that?
Did you say bonding facilities, Roy?
Yeah, for, you know, if you have to bond a job, if it's parent company guarantee, but you try to ring fence companies so the liability doesn't expand beyond the company that takes on the risk. So there's different reasons to do that, but I mean, taxation might be one, but it's not really not really the reason.
Right. Whereas this fellow out of Alberta, Roy, though, I mean, he was very explicit in that was his reason. Like he just
so
kept
that comes
spinning.
back to our original topic, Jerrod. Is that's his strength.
Right. He knows
that's what he's really good at. He really knows if he can do this. Like people that can flip a house and make money. You know, everyone watches those TV shows and thinks it's easy to buy an old house and renovate it and make money, and it's it's a learned skill. It's not, you're not going to make millions the first house you do, and some people are really good at it.
It's kind of fascinating, even like kind of knowing yourself. Like for me, I can do really well if I'm focused in on a certain thing. Then I'm kind of I can work at a very high level. But I notice as soon as I start splitting, I just start to, even like when we're redoing a studio and that, I just notice that I start to just other things start to suffer. But there are other people, they'll run like 4 or 5 companies. It's just crazy. They just have that ability. And just kind of knowing, but I do feel like a lot of people, they'll spend a lot of time chasing after their weaknesses rather than building on their strength. It's a real, especially for entrepreneurs, I think it's a real weak spot for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, the other thing to get back to organizational structure, and when I was running cementation, I think I had 13 people reporting directly to me, and that's a big no-no, right?
That's a lot of people.
I mean, rule of thumb, whatever, 5 or 6 or whatever. But the reality was, if you've got people that can run their portion of the business, hands down, they're really good at it. I mean, the people that took up most of my time, and Capel noted that in his book, if you don't have the right level reporting to you,
right,
you will find that lower levels in the hierarchy will take up much more of the leader's time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some of that in the structure. Very true. But I was never hung up on what the right number of direct reports should be, because I've seen, if you've got people that are really good at what they do, that's easy.
But it is knowing your strength, right? Like I couldn't have 13 people. Like that I would not be able to. Just the bandwidth wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
I need to have, like, I find, like, and it's not uncommon, like, for people that when they've studied this stuff, like 4 or 5 people are what most people top out at.
Mm-hmm.
And once it gets beyond that, it gets chaotic. And the other thing is to distinguish it goes back to that Bezos thing about sleeping. Can you do it, or are you doing it at the highest level? That's the other thing. So could I have 10 people reporting to me? Yes, I could. Could I be operating at the highest level with 10 people reporting to me? That answer I know is I couldn't. Whereas you might be different, right? People all have different strengths.
I have an interesting question. Like, do you know what's interesting? Like with like a production company, like for us, it's completely new, pretty much for the industry. And this is kind of like on the reporting side, because as we go, we're kind of building up these different specialties, like being able to do on-site production now, along with the interviews. It's interesting when you're building up like this new segment of how you're promoting these specific sectors. While podcasts are very common, you got Theo Vaughn. He usually has his own studio, but then he went and did an interview with Dave Ramsey, and they set up a whole new Theo Vaughn studio, but at Dave Ramsey's site. But it is interesting because I wonder how that changes things with like that reporting that's going on. Roy, you made a really good point about, like, if you've got the people in the wrong position, they'll take up way too much time because they need somebody else that's kind of they probably need somebody else that's managing, or maybe they need to be shifted in their role a bit so they have a better understanding of what they're doing. But that is a very good. I wonder how much it changes in like an Amazon, like in the early days, like with that, like that reporting, because obviously when you're only 10 years in or 5 years into a certain like product you're building, you've kind of got that, you're kind of weighing that order with chaos as it grows.
Well, yeah, I think I was touching on that last week too, right? Going back to that sleep thing. If you're running a new company, you got 10 employees or 10 team members, you're going to be working late nights. You're going to be trying to do multiple tasks. There's no way everybody can do it. Like, there's no way you can hire someone for doing everything. Once you grow, though, at some point, like we're not even there yet, Rory, but at some point, you might only be having 4 or 5 meetings in a day with your team, or you're maybe only talking to 4 or 5 people. You better be real sharp when you're having those conversations. So the skill set like completely changes. And then like going to what you're saying, Roy, if you got the wrong people, if you're having the wrong conversation with the wrong people, you end up with just a mess, like a real mess.
Well, there's some different, I remember one individual, and he was excellent at his role, the best at his role, but he wanted to be promoted.
Mm.
He wanted to be a VP, he wanted to be on the board, and he would have done poorly at that. But
Right.
so you run into these challenges too. It's, there's people that, and maybe that was the generation where it was all about advancement and title
Okay.
and whatever else. But it's a catch-22 because he was best in his role. He should have been happy there because he was excellent at it. And I knew he would be unhappy if I promoted him. But he was unhappy because I didn't promote him.
Right.
Is that
And we would have this discussion every year at a performance review. And, but, that happens sometimes. You find people that are excellent at their role, but what's next for them? The Peter Principle, right? I don't know if you've read that. If you have a chance to read that book, Lawrence Peter wrote a book called The Peter Principle. The Peter Principle is quite simple. It is, you will continue to be promoted until you are promoted to your level of incompetence.
That's not
Okay.
good.
So what was originally written as a comedy book, it was a spoof, has become what is acknowledged as a problem in our industry, where we promote people until they get to a point where they don't do the job well.
But Roy, in this situation, though, if he's wanting to be promoted, I would assume you could lay out guidelines to say, these are your weaknesses. This is why this is not happening. If in a year from now you can, because there are, and I've seen it with people, where you're able to point something out that's like a flaw even in how someone approaches their work, and you will actually see them change it. Like they actually can grow into it.
Yes. I mean, there is a saying there, if you can't change your people, change your people.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, if those are people that are in your business and you don't want to change them, then how do you train them and so on? I mean, you get to a point where there you go. But you get to a point where if you know your people, I mean, I could put that challenge to this individual, and a year from now, he would come to me and say, I've done all these things. And I would still know he would not be good
That's actually
in that next role. Like, that's part of leadership, right? You've got to.
Some people are. You don't want them being like let's say you're going to have a operations manager. There's some people that no matter how good they are in the role that they're doing, you're not going to promote them. Operations manager.
You know where I think it really shows is when you see people that run, they're part of, like, let's say a political party, and then they run for leadership, or they even get the leadership, and now they're the front person, and they're on the debate stage, or they're in like that really public environment, and they've had like these long careers, like, or they've got clips of like them giving very particular speeches that are planned out, and they're very good, and then all of a sudden they're on stage and they just look so weak because they're just not equipped for that particular type of thing. And it's shocking sometimes because you've seen the person before, and you know that this person's actually good at their job, and then they look completely incompetent.
Roy, what's something that you've seen with somebody that's like, you're like, they can't, like, this person can't be moving into this, like, they can't go into the board of directors, they can't go into that role. Like, is there like something that stands out that you're like, it just, I can give you all the things that you could work on, but it's still not happening? Because there's obviously a reason.
Yeah, that's, so that's tricky, right? Because you try and use what they call it, the sandwich technique. You compliment someone, you tell them your concerns, you compliment someone, you focus on their strengths, like, you did a fantastic job on this, and you did this, and you did this. Mm-hmm. And your greatest value to the company is in this role. And that's the way it is. And yeah, I mean, if I promoted you, you'd be happy for a little while. I don't say this out loud, but I understand it. You'd be happy for a little while. You might get a raise in pay, whatever, but you would not be good at that job. And it doesn't matter. When you get into certain leadership roles, it's not about training anymore. It's not about saying, I'm going to train you for a year and then you'll be able to lead. Some of it's natural, some of it's experience, but there's a combination there. And, if you're 20, 25 years into your career, a 6-month training program isn't going to elevate you from manager to leading a company.
Well,
it's that 25 years experience that's going to take you there.
Well, the one thing I say that I would be is a hard thing to train. I don't think it's impossible to, but if you see someone wanting a leadership position, but they do not pick up on signals of people, like they're not sort of empathetic with people, that to me is that's going to be a very hard personality to be good at a leadership role. Because you got to
look for certain flags. You're right.
Yeah,
Jerrod.
like someone who just or is dismissive of how other people are feeling. Not someone who's a pushover. I'm not talking about that, but just someone who just doesn't even pick it up. Because that's half of leadership is you're just watching your team. You're going, oh, this person's getting a little rocky. I need to kind of like get them back over here.
Someone who drinks Guinness out of a coffee thermos. There's certain red flags that.
And the good thing about red flags, when it's in the red thermos, it's like it's actually camouflage. It's a trick.
And you don't see on camera, he's just pouring more and more the whole time.
You're probably not charging Petro-Canada more to show their mug.
Well, Petro-Canada,
if you mention COMD, I get billed for it.
Exactly.
You're getting pretty good at not. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for joining us again, Gowdy. Thank you for managing the production of this, and Devin Kavanaugh for...
No, thank you, needed. I will bill you later.
Same. I'll double down on that.
I just want to offer encouragement, and I don't want to make this about money. I don't want to make this
You
about...
were just talking about the value.
Yeah, we need to remove
know
money
our
from
value.
this equation. We want people dedicated with their time, their efforts, but money's fake. As we always talk about, money's fake. So
that's one
Is
thing.
that what you're
to
telling
an
the
end.
client?
exactly.
This is something that leaders need to figure out, and I have not come up with a better, so you know what I'm talking about, is when the leader of the company stands up and says, we wouldn't do all of this without our team and this, and everybody nods. They need to find a better thing than saying that. Because it's
They
like...
should say, we are all here to deliver this product to all make good money
Yeah.
so we can sleep well at night.
But you don't sleep.
No, but you know what I mean? It's just that little speech that everybody does. It's like...
I'll send you the cementation, the Best for Project manifesto on why we started the company.
Actually, I have another email that I marked, Roy, that I just haven't read from you. Is the management or the negotiation thing? I just haven't jumped, and I want to actually focus in on it. So that will probably be my topic for next week. Actually, once I read it.
And before we forget, I'm kidding. I'm more worried about Jerrod forgetting, but Roy, we cannot forget about the beer review. Wait, I guess we have to review it first.
Oh, I love Guinness.
I love Guinness.
I don't. Guinness needs nothing from me other than I actually thought about because Gowdy bought a 4-pack for the show. I actually thought about getting a second one because I'm like, this is when do you just drink one Guinness?
You need to beef up for those potential assaults in that sketchy area of town you're in. Yeah,
Exactly. Jerrod, you need more of that water balloon physique. Nice and spongy.
Ouch.
Sometimes I don't drink water in the day just so that I don't tip over a certain point on the scale.
yeah. Oh, those pills do cause water retention, eh?
This is like fat shaming now.
Kind of.
Yeah.
No, we would never do that. Roy and Jerrod don't fat shame.
No such thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Roy, I just called myself. I don't know what I just did.
Yeah.
I'm too old to be fat, so I
Like
don't care.
Said, warning. Guinness.
Roy, what did you review?
I really enjoy a Guinness. It's unique. It's what they've done with this draft and how it's the nitro within the can. It's all pretty cool. And what comes out is a creamy, flavorful stout, and I really enjoy it.
Do you think if you, Roy, do you think if you had Guinness, it wasn't a brand, it just came out into this in this day and age with all these microbreweries and all that, do you think we would still love it as much, or would it just be sort of another beer to us? Because I can't tell how much of it is the branding and how much of it is the beer.
No, I think you've got a good point. There's a company in Toronto, a brewery in Toronto called Say What, and I think all of their beers are nitro. And the whole concept of a nitro beer is trying to reproduce what you would get on tap at a bar, right? And the nitro beers are creamier, they're easier drinking. And so they've taken that to the extreme. But I think you're right. There's something mental there. There's something in the branding that maybe gives it an extra point or two on the scale. I don't know, but
well, we talked about it earlier. Like you've got literally black and gold, so you've got that exclusivity,
yeah,
and the top quality, and it's just getting guzzled by the gallons, all over the world. And Roy, I saw your rating, but what do you rate Mr. Guinness?
Yeah, I'm. It's at least a 17, and I have looked at 18 before because it's just in. Now I say it's in a class of its own, but I think I talked before about BrewDog, and I don't know if BrewDog brews a beer called Blackheart, and they put up, and they're from Scotland.
Oh,
so
nice.
You've got the Irish Guinness, and then you've got BrewDog from Scotland, and they did the Guinness Challenge, where they challenged people that like Guinness to go head to head, and that BrewDog is a very. I tried one in Las Vegas. I can't get them in Canada.
Oh, really?
They don't sell them in Canada, but it was very good, and it had that bit of chocolate that the Guinness doesn't have for that kind of sweet stuff.
Oh, and that's another. It's another. See,
so what a great marketing campaign, right?
Yeah.
We'll take on all these people drinking Guinness. Just try one of ours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a huge market, and if 15 or 20% of them say, "Yeah, I'm going to try a Blackheart,"
we gotta get some for the show. We gotta find a way to get some.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We're going to be back next. Well, Roy's not going to be back next week. You're ditching us for something else.
Can't see that, Jerrod. I forgot this. This is my Mind Connect
Oh, nice
mug. This was a gift from the good people at Mind Connect. Sometimes, cranky old men, we get free beer. Every now and then we get
free mugs,
something to drink it out of.
Oh, we should start getting people to send us mugs. All right.
Why don't you get people to start sending us beer?
I gotta get Roy to start sending us checks.
Or get Rory get someone to send a mug to Rory there.
Oh man! All right,
Hey.
we'll wrap it
Thanks,
up here.
everybody.
Thank you, Petro-Canada Lubricants, for sponsoring our studio. We've been saying it's the last episode for a long time, but they keep we actually just had a meeting with them. They're loving the numbers, and people keep watching. So thank you.
We love the great people at.
Despite the content, we love the numbers.
The engagement is bizarre, but anyway, thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of the Crownsmen Show.